Cheating in video games has existed almost as long as they have, with Manic Miner from 1983 being one of the earliest to offer cheat codes. Those are codes that can be entered to give such advantages as unlimited health, ammunition, and items. These can be crucial for debugging and quality assurance, as requiring testers to have both the time and skill to complete all parts of a game is unrealistic. Many players will take any advantage they can get, a tale as old as not only video games, but unfortunately humanity. Let's look at how these cheats and hacks affect games, their players, and their communities. Let's start by talking about the primary methods by which players cheat in games, those being cheat codes included or accidentally left by developers, and players creating hacks. Developer cheat codes are largely a thing of the past and are rather rare these days and are almost exclusively limited to single-player games. Hacking, modifying the game code, or changing values in memory is a newer approach and is the most common method employed today. This is achieved by either replacing files in the game's installation or by running an external application to change the game's values directly in memory. This gamer has often used cheat codes in single-player games, as I care far more about the story and experience than gaining the skill required or time necessary to complete them. As such, this can be deemed a victimless crime, as the player cheats no one but themselves. Quite the opposite, as this can increase their enjoyment. Cheating in multiplayer games is, however, an entirely different matter, as you are, by definition, affecting other players. While this effect may not be direct, as the game may not involve any kind of player versus player gameplay, when one player is afforded an advantage others are not, we generally consider that unfair. Even when that advantage is possible via sanctioned means, such as pay-to-win mechanics, that advantage is generally frowned upon by the community at large. This brings us to Elite Dangerous, as where there's a game, there's someone who not only wants to cheat, but has the technical skill required to create those cheats, as that's where we are today. Actually, that's where we've been with Elite since July of 2018, as that's when one of the current hacks making the rounds was released. This hack, one of two available, offers the player near total control over various aspects of the game. Everything from ships that move over 2,000 meters a second in normal space, to the ability to instantly drop at any location upon entering a system. Want to drop at Hutton Orbital in seconds instead of hours? Have infinite shields? Weapons that do hundreds of times their standard damage. Yet another hack gives the player the ability to modify the engineering stats of any module, like having a Class 2 power plant output more energy than a Class 8 with zero heat. The options are as extensive as you can imagine. Some of you may be asking, why should you care? You don't play in open, you don't do combat, you don't care about the impact on asshole PvP pilots. There are several reasons we should all care. From the fact that actions in one game mode affects the others in terms of BGS and markets, to the simple fact that it's patently unfair for one player or group to have an advantage over others. More importantly, you should care about Frontier's stance on this issue, as it speaks to their overall consideration for the community in general and the quality of the game on whole. We've looked at how cheating works, why people use them, the impact upon the player base, and why you should care. Let's now talk about the way companies respond to these cheaters. There are two primary methods, technical and policy-based. Technical fixes can sometimes be the most difficult, depending on the methods used in the cheating. Many popular online games employ third-party utilities, such as VAC or Valve Anti-Cheat, to detect these methods and ban the player in question. Regardless of the technical response to cheating, for this gamer, a company's policy response is far more important. We've all likely seen stories of mass bannings of players from popular online games. These actions send very clear messages to their communities that cheating will not be tolerated in any way, shape, or form, and are generally met with very positive responses. This brings us to the elephant in the room, Frontier's response to cheating in Elite. Let's start with their official stated policy from the Terms of Service, Section 3, Part C, which simply states that various methods designed to modify or defeat the purpose or experience of the game are not permitted. Further on in Section 8, Part 1, they reserve the right to terminate this agreement, and thus the player's access to the game if the Terms of Service are violated. On the surface, these are good and standard policies and common across most of the gaming industry. The issue, however, is not their statements on the matter, but rather their action or inaction against these players. as one of the cheats making the rounds has been available for over 10 months, a time period where several major updates were released for the game. Little to nothing has been done from a technical standpoint to stop these hacks. While it could be a technical challenge for them to prevent these cheats, I'd suggest it was also a technical challenge for them to add the codex or any number of little-used features to the game in that time. This leads us to the second way companies respond, via policy. So how has Frontier responded based on their stated policy? Well, as they have consistently refused to comment on such matters, we can only infer from their actions, and they are nearly as weak as their technical response. I personally greatly enjoy role-playing PvP piracy, and as such, I attack players with the goal of stealing from them, not to kill them. I've had countless players combat log against me. That is, task kill the game the moment I engage them. Regardless of your personal stance on this issue, Frontier has defined it as cheating and bannable, period. I've reported players who've not only cheated right in front of me, but have taunted me in chat about the fact that Frontier will do nothing. As in the past, that's exactly what they did, nothing. Fortunately, Frontier has begun to take this seriously, issuing temporary bans on rare occasions. Okay, so you don't care about people cheating against a lowly pirate. What about those that use these hacks to attack other players in open? Use these hacks to earn huge amounts of credits or ease the unlocking of engineers and technologies. Here, the response has again been inconsistent, with a 3-day ban to solo mode where you do still affect the BGS for your first offense, to a month for your second, with a permanent ban to solo on your third. Never have I seen an example of a player being outright banned from the game on whole. While these policies are reasonable, the problem again is with the inconsistency of enforcement. There are several examples of players brazenly cheating in open for weeks and weeks, being reported by many players with no action taken at all. Some may criticize myself and the others bringing attention to these issues, as there is no doubt it will lead to some using these methods that wouldn't have otherwise known about them. I can in no way control that. All I can hope to do is influence players to care about this issue and Frontier to address it with a solid and firm stance. I can ask you to join me in that call for action to, respectfully, impress upon Frontier that these matters are important, the community cares about them, and want Frontier to act, to respond. There are many examples of games dying due to rampant cheating, and while I don't want to imply the sky is falling, there is no reason Frontier cannot lead the charge against these players on either a technical or policy level. I'd like to thank many of you for reaching out to me about this issue with both information and your thoughts. Members of Level 11, Nomads, Continuum, and specifically Commanders Tilt Controls and Ryan M17 of SDC contributed significantly with the writing of an article for Reddit, linked below. That post details their efforts to contact and work with Frontier to address this issue. Please join us by sharing your comments, but please do keep those respectful and constructive. Toxicity is not necessary or helpful and will not compel Frontier to act. Rational, level-headed responses are what's needed, helping others to understand why this should be important to all players, regardless of play mode or style. This has been Commander Exigeous, reminding you to fly honorably, and thanks for watching.